Okay, so lucky me, I get to sit here with Chef Wolfgang Puck at the gorgeous Cut GC in the Rosewood Hotel. Chef, it's been a minute since we've seen each other, but I'm so delighted to be sitting with you today, especially since I know everybody in town wants to talk to you for good reasons.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to just give people just a little brief history on you, because I know about you, but not everybody does. Your Austrian roots and how you grew up sort of at your grandmother's knee. Can we talk about how you got into the food biz?
Yeah, well, I think it was very simple. You know, I grew up in Austria, a very poor neighborhood, in a little village with 10 houses maybe. And, you know, we ate meat once a week. And in the spring times, we had our chickens, so all the roosters got killed and were made into fried chicken.
Okay.
But then comes the fall, we didn't have any more little chickens. But we ate a lot of sweets, we ate a lot of noodles, and I never felt like I didn't eat well. Why? Because my grandmother, but especially my mother was a professional chef. So in the summertime, she worked in a hotel on a lake, a resort. And she was really a good cook. She could make a better meal with very little than anybody, including myself for sure. You know, she did not know what caviar was really, or maybe she knew, but you know, we didn't have things like that. We didn't have veal at home. We didn't have beef at home. Maybe a cheap cut, and we boiled it and made soup and ate the meat and made cream spinach. So. But I never felt deprived of anything. But I had a stepfather who was really terrible, and I couldn't wait to leave the house. So at 14, I moved out of the house and started my apprenticeship as
But did your mom push you to go into cooking, or you were just like, I got to get out of this house?
No, that was my way out, because I was always working with my mother when I was 12, 13 in the summer at the hotel. And then the owner, the lady was really nice to me. And so she said, oh, you like the kitchen? And then I didn't want to be a mechanic. I didn't want to be a carpenter or something like that. I said, okay, I'm going to do maybe cooking. So she found me a job like 50 miles away, and I started.
So in those days when you did apprenticeships, you stayed, right? They gave you lodging, you stayed there?
Yeah, I stayed there. So it was like a 3 years apprenticeship. And, you know, my stepfather told me, I'm good for nothing, I'm going to come back.
Oh, my God, what a way to show him up, huh?
Yeah, I know. And then my first chef, too, he threw me out there after 2 months. He said, you're fired and everything, and it was terrible. And I thought I'm going to jump in the river. Thank God I didn't.
Thank God you did not.
Yeah, and then when I finished my apprenticeship, I moved to France. And I started in Dijon. Then I went to Beaumanière in south of France, which changed my life, really.
So what was it that changed your life? Like, where do you think, if you look back now, given all you've done, what was that moment where you were like, oh, I can not only do this, but I can do something really different?
Yeah, so when I was like 19, I worked in this restaurant, Beaumanière, and there the owner and chef was the first one who acknowledged me, who was actually nice to me, and he says, you know, you have talent in the kitchen. Whenever I made a sauce, he tasted it and says, you know, you're not French, but you cook better than the French.
Okay.
So it made me feel really good, because he was the first one who actually said, wow. And then I said, maybe this will be. So, and then I looked up to him. He was such a perfectionist, but he was a great host. I remember he brought Elizabeth Taylor in the kitchen. He brought Pablo Picasso in the kitchen.
Wow.
They had, the Queen of England stayed there and had dinner there, so it was a big deal. The French president, you name them, they all came to this restaurant in the middle of nowhere, really. It was close to Avignon, close to Marseille, but it was in a village of 300 people.
Wow.
So that really changed my life, and he is like my mentor, really. You know, he was an amazing man. He was the mayor of the village. He was a painter. I mean, he kept himself busy until the end, you know. So.
And do you feel like you took a lot, I mean, as your mentor, but did you take a lot from him? Because when you came to the States, you came with a splash. I mean, when you opened up in LA, you know, in Spago and the things you were doing, you totally changed the trajectory of how people were dining in this country.
I think when I started Spago, it really changed the restaurant world, because it was the first restaurant with an open kitchen. And I really thought out of necessity, but also we didn't have the space. I said, the restaurant, you know, generally, the chefs were always ignored. Nobody talked about the chef. They talked about the guy or the owner with the suit out in front.
Or the maitre d', right? The maitre d'.
Yeah.
You had to know the maitre d'.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it became a restaurant where people walked in and saw the kitchen, the chefs in white hats and making things, and we had to be polite. We couldn't yell and scream like it was in the old time.
Sure.
And so, and the food was really good, simple, not complicated, but of really good quality.
Well, that was the smoked salmon pizza, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you were famous for.
Yeah.
And what, did that come from Paris, or did you have something out there? Like, were you in California and like, I have to, this is where it's going?
You know, sometimes innovation comes out of necessity. And so I was making smoked salmon. First, I bought a smoker to make duck. I wanted to have a tea-smoked duck.
Okay.
But the smoker I bought didn't work to dry the ducks because it was hermetically sealed, so no humidity escaped, so it didn't work out.
It did not work.
So then I started to make smoked salmon and serve smoked salmon with brioche and dill cream and everything. Then one day we ran out of bread. It was 11 o'clock at night, and then I said, wow, what am I going to do? It was John Collins with some of your friends, and they ordered always, when they came, they always said, you have the best smoked salmon, and then I think, you're smoked salmon. I said, damn, I have no more bread. And then I said, you know, it's too far to go find some bread in a supermarket. So I said, I'm just going to cook a pizza dough, cut it into pieces, and then serve that with the smoked salmon. We'll see. And as I was doing that, I said, oh, why not put it completely together? So I put another pizza dough in the wood-burning oven, cooked it, put the dill cream on, put the smoked salmon on it, a little caviar and chives, cut it in, 8 wedges, tasted it, and I said, oh my God.
So delicious.
And I brought it out to Joan. I said, you know, I made something specially for you. And she said, oh, Wolfgang, darling, you are so nice. And she went on and on and on.
And then that whole trend started.
Yeah,
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So let's fast forward to today. So you have restaurants all over the world, so many different concepts. I mean, here we are at a steakhouse, Cut, DC. The first one I went to was years ago in LA.
Yeah.
In the Beverly Wilshire?
Beverly Wilshire.
Yeah, right. Beautiful hotel and Cut as well. What was it about opening up a Cut here, a steakhouse here in DC?
Well, I think when we saw that space here, and I think the Rosewood people wanted to have a Cut because they also owned the Beverly Wilshire Hotel.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
So, and Cut was super successful over there. They said, why not doing a Cut? And I thought maybe at that time, I want to export more like the Cut name than the Spargo name, because Cut seemed to me easier to do than Spargo. It didn't have so many different varieties of food like at Spargo. You had Asian influence, Italian influence, a pizza oven, you name it, you know. So we did the Cut, and, you know, I like them both the same. You know, we always use the best ingredients, the best beef, and then we try to keep it, you know, simple, but of the best quality.
Of course.
So a little bit like a dressmaker, you know, when you look like Yves Saint Laurent made for women the first tuxedo. It was so simple, but so elegant.
But because it fit.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about the tailoring at the end of the day. Well, I always think about how you opened up the Source here in DC all those years ago, and how you really became a fabric of the DC area, which is really hard to do as a restaurateur who comes out of town. But you brought Scott Druneau to town, and, you know, really were pivotal in changing how this, how the diners here took elevated Chinese food.
Yeah, you know, totally. I think this kind of fusion Chinese food, you know, it became popular in LA when I opened Chinois. Then we did one here. I said, I don't want to open just another restaurant. I want to open something a little different. So we opened the bar downstairs, the restaurant upstairs. I just drove by today, and I saw now it's Johns Hopkins University.
I know, it's so sad. I miss R.I.P. the Source. I think everybody really misses it.
Well, I think if we find the small space, I think I wouldn't mind to do another one. You know, if I can go to 2 restaurants, it's okay. Like we have 2 restaurants in Singapore, we have 2 restaurants or 3 restaurants in Bahrain, so it would be good.
Okay, so I'd love to talk about, given that you have restaurants globally, and you now have this one here, and you're talking about even doing a second one if the right opportunity presents itself. The dining world, given, especially like when I think of what happened here when you opened up Cut, the bridge was out, the pandemic happened, and now there's, you know, a lot of uncertainty in the world. Can we talk about how that affects you and what you're doing? How does it affect your mission? How does it affect hospitality? How do all those things like impact your next steps?
Well, I think whenever there's a downturn, obviously it's harder. There are some people who have less money, some people who are less fortunate. You know, even if you're a store owner, all of a sudden less people come to buy your stuff, whatever it is, you know. You make less money, you won't go out 3 times a month to a good restaurant, an upscale restaurant. You might go once.
Right.
Because you make less money. So I think many, many people are affected by that. But what we have to do is really take care of our guests who come all the time. You know, we have so many regular people. So I think it's important to really take care of them. How we make the guests feel. If they feel good when they go home and say, well, I can't wait to go back because I had a wonderful time, the food was great, and the hospitality. You know, we always talk mostly about food and wine and cocktails, but it's really about the hospitality.
Agreed.
Food is part of it, yes, but not the only thing. You know, as chef, often we think, oh, the food and the rest doesn't matter, you know.
Right.
But you can make the best food if the waiters are not nice or the front desk is not right. You don't gonna go back. You know, there are too many other options.
So when you work with your staff to train people, what would you say is like the significant Wolfgang Puck hospitality?
Well, I think the most important part for me is to make people feel good. And that starts with the people who work with me. You know, if they feel good, then they're going to feel probably easier to be friendly to the guests, to be nice to the guests. But if I yell at them and make them miserable,
right,
they're not going to be in a good mood, and the service is going to suffer a little bit. They might still do their job, but not the way they should. So I think it's really important to make them feel good, so that way they can then make the guests feel really good. They get great food, get a good glass of wine or a cocktail.
right.
But then when they leave, you want to feel good and say, you know, I spent good money, but I feel good.
I feel good.
And I always tell them this story. I went to Barney's in Beverly Hills. Barney's was a famous
I remember
upstairs.
Barney's.
Yeah. So I walk in there. I wanted to buy some jeans. I was going on vacation in the summer. I said, I'm just going to get some white jeans because we are going to Italy or somewhere. And I didn't want to get there to a tailor and make them right. So I said, I have a few days. I go in there. I go to the 4th floor. I walked up. And then there were 4 people in a cubicle kind of thing on the computer, all looking at the computer.
Ignoring you.
Ignoring me. Nobody said, good morning, can I help you? Finally, I went up to the thing and hit the counter and said, good morning. And they thought I was crazy.
I think you were right.
Yeah.
But I also would have left.
Yeah. Well, I said, I come here. Can anybody come help, or should I call a manager to get me 2 jeans? And they just looked at me very weird, you know, very arrogant, and said, what do you want? And so then finally I got them go. I got one person going, and they gave me this thing. But it left a bad taste in my mouth.
It left such a bad taste in your mouth that you were still telling that story years later.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
And now they're closed, so you know they got what they deserved.
You know what?
No, I'm kidding.
I'm sure they had employees who were good, but the hospitality, they're in the hospitality business. Why should you go to a store if they don't treat you really well? You know, you spend your hard-earned money. The restaurant is just the same. A bank is just the same. We are all in the hospitality business. We have to make people feel good, especially if we try them to come back, not just to be a one-time customer.
Of course. So here at Cut DC, you've got a lot of things going on, right? Dinner, lunch, tea.
Yeah.
Tea happens to be one of my favorite things. Is that something that you enjoy, or what's your sort of vibe on it?
I'm not a real tea guy. It seems like it's always, to me, it's like more a woman thing than a man thing, which is okay. You know, I mean, I wouldn't mind to have a tea or have some scones or whatever.
I'm a scone person. I like the cloudy cream.
Yeah.
So.
And I like maybe the little sandwiches or whatever. Sometimes when I'm in London, I ask them toasted. They look at me and say, why you want them toasted? So, but it's a nice way, and I love champagne. Like on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, I love a glass of champagne instead of the tea.
I am with you. I will drink champagne. I do not need a celebration to drink champagne.
Exactly, me either. I think it made me celebrate life.
Agreed. Okay, so before we wrap up, because I know how busy you are, you have a big dinner here tonight. I would love to know sort of what kind of trends you're seeing out there. Is there anything, like you dine out all the time, even though you have all these restaurants around the world. Is there anything that you've been to lately that has sort of inspired you or you're excited by or that you're seeing?
You know, I see so many great things in the world. Like I stayed at the Plaza Atene in Paris, and
I'm so
it's a
jealous.
great hotel. Their service is amazing. You know, the amenities are amazing, and it makes you feel good, even if it's super expensive. And then they have a nice restaurant downstairs. There you can have tea in the lobby there and everything. So I just have champagne there. So, and I went back to one of my old towns, Maxime's in Paris.
Okay.
And Maxime's used to be a restaurant where all the high society from Paris went, from the whole world, you know. I remember Onassis coming on, and I remember Charlie Chaplin, the Kennedys, and you name them, they all came. Now it changed. It's not a 3-star restaurant anymore. It's still a beautiful restaurant, probably the most beautiful restaurant with the best lighting.
Well, they used to be like, is there still one in New York? They used to be, they did branch out, right?
They branched out to New York and Chicago, but they all closed down.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't have the same vibe as Paris. It's really special. So anybody who goes to Paris, you have to go to Maxime's and sit in the main room.
Okay.
And just the ambiance, it makes you feel good already. And the food is very good. Nothing crazy, nothing that out of this world you never had.
Right.
But we had like a whole branzino grilled, and it was really nice with a good sauce next to it. Okay. It was perfect, you know. But you didn't have to have 16 dots on it and everything. So it was really, really delicious. And then I went to Beaumanière, where I started out, you know. And my son Byron worked there too. And I think it's really amazing too how he keep it going. The restaurant is 80 years old. I'm going in June for the 80th birthday.
Isn't that amazing? That's
and
amazing.
And the restaurant is sold out every day. It's a 3-star restaurant, but the restaurant also has its own charm because it's in a house from the 17th century. So it's really amazing. But they modernized inside, they modernized the chairs. So you feel like up to date, but you still feel all this limestone
like the old world
ceiling.
Charm.
Yeah, so it's really nice. So I had a great few days there. And I think there are everywhere really interesting things to do. But the main thing is just like if you're a singer or a painter, you have to find your own voice. Who are you actually? You know, what makes you special? Why should people come to your place? And I tell always my chef, you know, our execution has to be perfect. We have to do something what other people don't do. Like right now, I have my pastry chef Della here, and she is teaching Lygi, our pastry chef at Cut, how to do some Viennese-style dessert. So we are making an amazing Apfelstrudel.
Yum.
We are making Kaiserschmarrn, and we are making a Sachertorte. Sacher is a famous hotel in Vienna.
Yes.
They have a chocolate cake, but it's not good.
Oh, okay.
It's has no flavor, no nothing. So we worked on the recipe and made it. And now it's really good. I actually think I should send them the recipe and call it the Puck torte, not the Sachertorte.
Okay. I don't think many people will fight you on that, actually.
Yeah, so I think it's really an amazing cake now, and I really like it. So we're going to have it here.
Okay.
Also, like we're going to have the raviolis we used to eat as children with cheese. It's a mixture of farmer's cheese with some fresh herbs in it, some sauteed leeks or onions in it, and crushed potatoes in it, and you cook it and serve it with brown butter and hazelnuts, and it's so good.
That sounds delicious.
You eat that so simple, but the quality is really good. Or we're going to make my favorite, the Kaiserschmarrn, also a dessert.
Okay, say that again.
The Kaiserschmarrn.
Okay, what is it?
Kaiser means emperor.
Yes.
Schmarrn is, Schmarrn, when you say you make a Schmarrn of something, it's like a lot about nothing, really. Okay. You know, you just tell some silly stories. And so it's this dessert, and it's almost a little bit like a souffle. But we serve it with a warm strawberry compote, and it has raisins soaked in rum inside and everything. You eat it, and you cannot stop eating it.
Oh my God, that sounds delicious.
And then also the Apfelstrudel, so which is famous where I come from, and we make it with marzipan ice cream on the side and caramel sauce on the side. So we have 3 typical Viennese desserts, and naturally, we are making the Wiener Schnitzel.
Right, of course.
And we also have a little redo from Spargo. Like when I started Spargo, there was no Caucasian restaurant who had raw fish on it. Now almost
Everybody has a crudo or something,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. So we made a little salad with tuna sashimi, a little caviar, a little avocado, and it became very popular. And we were one of the first restaurant to serve raw fish like that.
Isn't that amazing?
If it's not in a Japanese restaurant, you didn't get that in
Right.
any restaurant. So it was really interesting. So we are doing that here today. We are doing a few things from Spargo also. When we started out, we have the Asian style steamed fish with ginger and cilantro and green onions and a little soy sauce. So it's very popular. It's served with some stir-fried vegetables. So we have a little mixture. And from cut also, we have a beautiful, beautiful ribeye steak bone in, which is my favorite. And we make some pomaligo, which is a potato puree with a lot of Cantal cheese in it and mozzarella cheese in it. So it gets stringy. We serve it like that.
So we got a great pull, right? Are we pulling it up?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, so we have that, and then serve the Wiener Schnitzel, and then we have another cut dish, which we don't have here, which we're going to maybe put on here too, which is a bone marrow flan. So we use part of the shank, the beef shank, like that much. We make a custard with bone marrow, fill it, and steam it.
In the back in the bone?
Back in the bone.
Ooh,
so
beautiful.
You can eat it with a little spoon, like the bone marrow flan, with a little mushroom marmalade and a little red wine sauce.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, no, it's very good.
It sounds, I'm watching you light up when you talk about the dishes.
Yeah.
I think it really will, it shows people that you're still in that kitchen.
Okay, I totally love it. To me, it's really an important part. And to go to the farmer's market, to the fish market, and I think spend time in the kitchens, train the people the right way, look at they do it the right way. I think it's really, that's what I love. And I hope if I die one day, it will be at the end of the service, and then it's over. When people ask me, when you're going to retire, why are you going to open another restaurant or this? I said, because I love it. This is my love, and I think it's going to be hard now because our youngest boy, Alexander, is moving out, is going to New York to go to NYU, and then my wife and me are going to be home alone.
Right.
So I think we're going to have to spend more time together or figure something out. If not,
you travel a lot, though. You do. You're on the road a lot.
I think she's going to have to travel with me more, too, because there's no kid at home. I think we might come here to the East Coast more.
Oh, good.
So it should be good.
All right. Well, thank you. I know how busy you are, and I love that you shared so much with me today.
Thank you.
Chef Wolfgang Puck.
Thank you.
Produced by Heartcast Media.